welcome to my Techo Kaigi. Techo Kaigi is a Japanese term where Techo means notebook or planner and Kaigi means meeting. So Techo Kaigi is like a notebook meeting where people talk about different planner systems and journaling systems that have been working for them, not working for them, what they want to do, what they don't want to do anymore. I love talking about notebooks, so I was like, let's make a Techo Kaigi video. I've been journaling for 9-ish years. I've done a lot of types of journaling in my past. I started actually with sketchbooking and just keeping a sketchbook with me and drawing, but then that slowly became kind of a place where I planned. And then I delved into bullet journaling, which then I incorporated more journaling about thoughts and feelings, and then my notebooks became very journaling based, where I talk about my feelings, my thoughts, and yeah, that's kind of where mine is at now, journaling. But let's go through my journals. This is the oldest one I have at the moment. This one is from 2019. The way I started doing my bullet journal stuff is I was inspired by a lot of YouTubers that do bullet journaling and doing these really perfect aesthetic bullet journaling where they plan their life and making perfection in their journals. And I kind of knew from the beginning that if I were to take so many hours in my day to set up something beautiful, then it wouldn't be me prioritizing planning and actually using a planner to make my life easier to live, in a sense, easier to organize, easier to process what's happening. So then I was like, how can I make it so it's super simple setup wise, so then I can get planning super quickly, but also very simple so then I can add on decorations later to make it look prettier. So that's kind of how my thought process started. I would put in a calendar like this where I would just draw out the grid of the calendar and put in the numbers of the day, and that is all I would do for setup. And then during class, during whatever, I would draw in decorations to make it look fun. And for my weeklies, I would do something like this. When you open your notebook, the 2 pages that you see is 1 week. So I would do something like this. This is how I would do it. So these two together is 1 week. And that's kind of how I did throughout this whole journal. Yeah, because the setup was super easy, I would set up my week when I set up my monthly as well. So then you can see like certain weeks where I have quite literally nothing in there. But I was kind of okay with that because then I know that I was coming back to it whenever it worked out for me schedule-wise. And then I used this book. This I also did the same thing, but then I would delve more into the artsy type of stuff. So then the base is the same, but then in class I would add on so many doodles to make it look pretty. I think if you're doing a more bullet journal type of notebooking, something like this where you are doing the setup really quickly, really easily, and then the decorative aspects are more leisurely optional, I think that works really well for someone like me. It's something I would recommend to people that are daunted by making their bullet journals really beautiful. So like this is also another monthly spread that I would deck out. But some of them are not decked out like this, and it is just squares. And that's okay too, because it works if it's just squares. As long as it works, that's perfect. And then I got this one. These so far are all school journals. This is also the same, where I would have my weekly the same way. But then after that, I was like, I don't know if I like this way of planning. So then I was testing out different ways of scheduling and setting up my week. And during this time, my dad was using the Hobonichi planner that is very popular and you guys may know. But I copied kind of the layout of the Hobonichi planner where at the top you have like to-do list or whatever is due, whatever you have to do that day, and at the bottom you have like your hourly. I quickly realized that hourlies are not for me because during my day I like to do whatever I want essentially in the spur of the moment. So even if I have things that I have to do during that day, I would choose to do it right now or in a few hours. So I was like, these hourly systems are not going to work for me. So then it just became vertical weeklies, which also did not work for me because I realized that horizontal writing is significantly better for me. And it feels like I can write more and I don't feel as confined in the space that I'm writing in. And then this is my next notebook. This one is from the transition of high school to my college. Because of my last way I bullet journaled, I was like, I need to do my planning horizontally because I'm not listing out that many things, but I am explaining what the things that I need to do are. So then I would want to write longer rather than taller, because if it's taller, I want to write many things. I don't have many things to write. I have like a couple things, but I want to explain in detail what I need to do. So I made this kind of spread where it's 1 page for 1 week, and this worked really well for me for some time. I realized that I was putting in some sticky notes to then add in thoughts and feelings that I was experiencing. I thought might as well add a space for me to write my thoughts and feelings. So then I made my system kind of like this, where it's the same 1 week, but then after that I have each day where I can write down how I'm feeling, what happened in the day, what I'm feeling. So then I did that for quite a while, and that was my journey in this notebook. And then in my next one, I started doing the same thing basically. And I was realizing that the way I set it up was really difficult for me to feel motivated because I would section out these boxes in advance in order to write my feelings out. Whenever I missed a day, it was really obvious that I missed a day. And that felt very disheartening. I need to make it so it feels good writing in my journal instead of it feeling like I failed because I hadn't been journaling. From that structured way of journaling, I actually switched to like very unorganized journaling. Whenever I would feel like writing, I would pull out my notebook and then start just writing how I feel, what my thoughts are, what has been going on in my mind, what has been going on in my life. That is how my journal changed in here, and I completely stopped doing planning stuff. And then in this journal, I basically continued doing that, where I would just write whenever I felt like there was something to write about. Sometimes I would use it as a sketchbook, but not often. Sometimes I would take notes in here for class if that was necessary, but usually not really. The system where I just pick up my journal whenever I feel like writing really stuck for me. Throughout my college career, that's how I've been journaling. So this is the next journal, been doing it the same way. And then this is my next one, where I did the same. And this is my most recent finished one. Same thing, where I just have all of this pages where I just write how I feel. So that's my journaling history, my notebooking history. But now, let's talk about my notebooks right now, the notebooks that help me live my life in this moment, which are these two notebooks. So this notebook is the same notebook as a lot of the other notebooks I've shown you so far, where this is hand-woven cloth that I wove, and once I finish this journal, I can reuse this cover for my next journal. So I made this journal cover for myself so I can protect my journal. And in here is pretty similar to what you guys have seen so far, but let's go in depth in my system. So my first page, where I can open the first 2 pages, I write in a calendar. So here I have a whole year, but depending on when I start this journal, it affects when I start the very beginning. So I started this journal maybe around a month ago. So this very beginning month that I actually put in is July 2025. And then it finishes here to December 2025. And then it's the first half of my 2026 year. Because unlike a lot of people, I don't use a journal specified for a year or half a year. I don't have a time frame set for my journals. This is how I track like the time that is passing when I have my journal with me. And I have it covered up, but under the months I write down birthdays or important dates that I need to remember. I'm really bad at remembering dates, so I always check in here to see whenever it's someone's birthday that's coming up soon. You can see circled days. Those are days that I had my period. So then this is the place where I also track my period. Most of the rest of the contents in my journals are, like I said, just me word vomiting on the page, just me talking about what's on my mind, what are some questions that I need to ask myself, what are some questions that I need to ask others, how to phrase those questions to others. It basically helps me navigate my life in a mindful way. So my journal is a place where I can sit down and think through things in order to make sure that the actions that I take in my life are ones that I want to take. So I do a lot of writing. I don't really think that hard writing in my journal, like how I made it sound when I just said that. But it's just whenever I feel the need in my heart that I need to think through something, or I just want to be in my mind or understand my mind a little bit more, then I pull out my journal and I just start writing and writing. And sometimes I do use it kind of like a planner, where I have a monthly and write down important days, plans that are upcoming, etc. But that is just whenever I feel like it is necessary. So my journaling system is really relaxed. I don't really put any pressure in my journal where there are things that are necessary for me to put in my journal. So it is all just up to me, up to my feelings, what I feel like is important for me to reflect on in order for me to live my life currently in a way that is mindful. And also, it is a place for me to reflect on the past to make sure that I can mindfully manage that. So this is my journal. This is my write or die. This is my notebook that I bring with me everywhere I go. Whenever I have the feeling that I need to journal, which can happen whenever, there's no time that I can predict when I feel like I need to journal. So I always have this with me. And to be honest, I reach for this quite frequently, even though there's no structure of when I need to. I just really desire to become a better person and a more mindful person when acting in a situation. I always want to take the next steps in the most mindful way possible. There's a lot of actions to be made in life, so this comes in handy quite often. It's something that I need quite a lot. And then I recently started a second journal. Throughout all of the years that I have had a notebook to accompany my life, I've only had one, because whenever I have seen a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of people online that have multiple journals, I'm always thinking like, how can you maintain all of that? And how do you know what thing belongs in what journal? Because for me, my notebook that I have used forever is kind of like the reflection of my mind. It's a reflection of what's happening in my life right now, what's happening in my mind right now. They're all interconnected, and how can I separate them into different journals and decide what belongs in what journal? So I was never the type of person to have multiple notebooks. But recently, I started carrying with me a second notebook. This is my collection book, as I like to call it, but you guys may know it as a Commonplace Book. A Commonplace Book, if you guys don't know, is kind of a place where you gather different things that you encounter in your life and put it in one place. For me, it is a place where I gather my memories. It is a place where I gather quotes that people have said. For me, my Commonplace Book, it's a place where I want to cherish things that I can easily forget. In living my day-to-day life, it is quite often that I hear something that someone says, I see something online that I think is really cool and insightful that I want to keep for myself, something that I want to reflect on later, something that I hear and I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I want to explore that further. But a lot of the times I forget so quickly. I look back in my day and I'm like, oh, that thing that someone said, it was so interesting. What was that? And I can't remember. And that happens to me a lot. And that was really frustrating to me. So I decided to make my Commonplace Book. This is a place where I gather anything that inspires me, anything that I want to reflect on later, and I write it in here. And this is a catch-all for anything that itches my brain in some way. If I can write down whatever is interesting to me in here, then I can grab that, write it in here, and reflect on my thoughts, how I feel about it, and actually form my own thought in terms of this idea or comment or whatever. This has made me significantly more thoughtful in listening to other people, made me more aware of things that other people say and what they mean. I think doing this trains me to understand what things interest me, what things I deem as important and important to keep in my life and important to reflect on. It lets me keep it in my life and reflect on it later. So this has been really good for me. Summary. This is my journal for planning, reflecting on my feelings, my thoughts, organizing my life, organizing my thoughts, understanding my life, understanding my thoughts. So this is for making sure that I maintain my life in a way that is good for me. So then this is very crucial to me. Without this, it's very hard. Well, without this, I am lacking understanding of myself and my life. And then this notebook is important because it lets me grow from outside influences, outside comments, outside thoughts, outside art, anything that sparks something in me. This is where I let those things that hit home for me or anything outside that move me in some way and let it affect me, let it change me, let it make me grow. this is the place where I take outside things and I can transfer it into my growth in my personal self. This is my current system, and I'm actually very happy about it. I have never had multiple notebooks at once. I feel like I'm kind of in a transition period in my notebook system, if that makes sense. I'm actually thinking about adding in more planning into my journal. I decided to make this video because I feel like I'm kind of in a transition period in my notebook journey where I'm graduating my single notebook for my life, and now I'm entering my double notebook journey in my life. And that is something that's really exciting to me because as someone that has seen a lot of people use multiple notebooks in their life and seeing a lot of times it's not adding value, a lot of times having more notebooks is not more value to their life. It's really exciting to me that I have found a way to make it more value in my life. As you guys have heard, my notebook journey has been going on for so many years, and I think that is exactly why I've been able to grow into understanding what I need for myself, what I need. It has helped me understand what type of experience I am lacking in my notebook journey, because if you don't understand what kind of value your notebook is bringing to your life, then you can be easily influenced into adding more and more and more journals into your life that actually add no additional value, or adding the exact same thing that you already have and you don't know. But because I have been doing my same journaling process for so long, now I'm like feeling ready to grow and feeling ready to expand my uses of my notebooks, understanding what value my journal is currently holding and what it is lacking. And then I can use a different journal in order to add what is lacking. And this is to say, you can do all of the types of journaling in one notebook. And you don't need a bajillion notebooks in order for you to have the same amount of value as having all of these types of notebooks. I feel very proud of myself to have naturally come to this realization of, oh, having a commonplace book would actually be beneficial in my life right now. Because I've known what a commonplace book is for so long. I've always been like, that is so useless. That is like, I'll just remember that. I know how to grow from the things that are in my life already, or like, why am I collecting things in my life? That makes no sense. Like, that, I don't understand how that would improve my life. But now that I've been journaling for so long, it makes sense why it would improve my life. Because I have naturally come to the conclusion that me collecting things in my life will actually help my life. People telling me online is not the thing that led me into having a commonplace book. In fact, I made my collection book, and then I was like, wait, isn't this what a commonplace book is? I had that natural realization of like, oh, now I understand why people have a commonplace book. But people explaining to me the value of a commonplace book, for me, did not lead me into having a commonplace book. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed me rambling about notebooks and my notebook journey, my journaling journey. This is just me rambling about notebooks. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful night. Drink some good tea, have some good food, hopefully. And let me know down below if you guys have your own notebook system and how it's working for you, any questions about mine, whatever you want. Let's talk about notebooks. Yeah. Bye bye. Wonderful day.